there is a tremendous willful blindness to what's gone on through the pandemic. There has been no review of lessons learned. What did we learn from the pandemic?
I agree. It's so wild how so much information was every day. It was this, go here, get a booster. If you can't get a vaccine, hang your family member out of a window. We'll have an archer come by with a vaccine from Pfizer. Yeah, it was we can, we'll vaccine them from the road or whatever. It's it was getting crazy. But yeah, it's kind of wild how afterwards there hasn't been as much hey, these are the things we learned. This is what we've learned as a society.
Well, we're told over and over again, there's going to be another one. It's called Disease X. It's going to come out of another biolab.
Shit, it's going to come out of Miami, I'll tell you that.
Or Galveston, Texas. They got a BSL-4 lab there.
Do they?
Yeah.
I don't know. They got some BBLs over in Miami, though. I know that.
No, it's
Is it really?
They're dealing with some bad stuff down there.
Okay, mark that. I want to go back and talk about that in a second. Wait, so this is it right here, defining Disease X.
Well, look at Bloomberg School of Public Health. Who's the major funder of Bloomberg School of Public Health? Bill Gates.
Wow.
This is a dream. This is a dream of those who want to vaccinate the world, is they want another Disease X.
Of course. It's another industrial war complex. That's what this is.
Well, you got it.
But it's on your bodies. I do want to say this, and Bill might just be trying to solve whatever he was potentially giving his wife. I don't know. That's allegedly. But I will say this. I want to read this right here because you mentioned it, Disease X. I haven't heard about it. Since 2018, the mysterious and often misrepresented hypothetical pathogen has been at the heart of international pandemic preparedness efforts. Just that sentence alone, when you look at that sentence, look how front-loaded and vague it is. Since 2018, this mysterious, often misrepresented hypothetical pathogen has been at the heart of international pandemic preparedness efforts. We're so prepared for something that's super vague. It's just you can feel it setting you up for something.
Well, let's go to CEPI, the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness and Innovation. It's founded in 2017 by the World Economic Forum and Bill Gates. And CEPI, in its business plan in 2017, says there's going to be a series of these pandemics, one after another, coming in like hurricanes. And for each one, there'll be only one solution: mass vaccination. And CEPI is a vaccine incubator. They're going to be ready. Let me tell you, vaccines in pandemics is big business.
Yeah.
Way more than pro sports, way more than anything else you can think of. It's huge business. And in this world of, we don't hear about other forms in this industrial complex now, other things now outside of biological threats and then countermeasures, which is a military term, which are vaccines, therapeutics, and protective equipment. But the idea is these are so richly funded, they're so richly funded that the entity that holds the threat and holds the antidote, they hold power. Can you imagine the negotiating power you would have if you said, hey, listen, I got COVID-20 locked and loaded right now at an undisclosed location, can get the whole country sick. We want a little better tariff situation. Can you imagine the negotiating power? And Peter Daszak, who's part of this whole conspiracy to create SARS-CoV-2, when he testified in the House of Representatives, he said, I left a whole bunch of samples back in Wuhan.
So wait, I'm confused. What was he doing there?
Peter Daszak was the go-between between Dr. Ralph Baric at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, who devised the virus and was publishing on it, and the federal government. Daszak was at the EcoHealth Alliance. It's a go-between organization that was shuttling money for Barrick's projects over to Wuhan. Daszak had been to Wuhan many, many times. He knew that lab well.
To create the virus, you mean?
Correct.
Understood. Okay, let's back up one second. I just want to look at CEPI. Who created CEPI? Bring that back up.
CEPI was a World Economic Forum and the Gates Foundation. You'll find, I think, the government of Germany and India, I believe, was involved as well. But this is a richly funded, multi-billion-dollar organization. You just can't imagine how big these
I can totally. You look at the industrial war complex,
and
now you start to see it's the industrial medical complex, right?
Go.
That's the new one that really seems like it's sprouted over the past 20 years.
Correct.
Right here, CEPI is the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, a global organization focused on accelerating vaccine
Vaccine development.
Okay, sorry. It was created in 2017 through a partnership between the governments of Norway and India, the Wellcome Trust, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Yep.
And go back to Disease X. I want to just read what it was really quick.
By the way, CEPI's got a big Disease X section. They have a whole white paper on it.
Wow. Disease X is a placeholder concept that refers to a pandemic pathogen that has not yet been characterized. How vague is that? Like, hey, it exists, but we don't know what it is exactly yet.
But we have a vaccine for it.
Its purpose is to encourage proactive thinking about pathogens that could cause a pandemic. Oh, so Disease X isn't an actual disease? It's a plan?
It's a plan for a disease. So Disease X was SARS-CoV-2. It was a planned disease.
Got it.
And here we are. It was a plan. And, you know, in my first book, Courage to Face COVID-19, we expose CEPI and what we call a biopharmaceutical complex. You called it a bioindustrial complex, same thing. But there has been a cartel that's formed. It's very powerful. And it probably back 2004 is probably when it started with the BioShield Act. But it includes the World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum, Gates Foundation, Wellcome Trust, the Rockefeller Foundation, CEPI, Gavi, Unitaid, all these organizations, all organized to essentially plan for, create pandemics, and then respond to them. And that's how COVID-19 ultimately, it's essentially known now. This was not a spontaneous thing from nature. This was planned.
What's the number one piece of evidence that makes you feel like it's known that it was planned?
Well, I think the best source of all of the evidence is Peter Bregan's book, COVID-19 and the Global Predators, We Are the Prey. I wrote the introduction for it. But he goes back again to about 2004, the BioShield Act, where he outlines 36 pandemic preparedness planning events. 36, historically. He's got a wonderful timeline. And of those, 24 provide written documents. You can just read them, including one of them's the PrEP Act in 2005, which says there will be a pandemic. And we will have one. 2005, that was a Bush administration, HHS, said, listen, we're going to have one. And when we do, we're going to have countermeasures. And when we roll out these countermeasures, you better take one. And there is a complete freedom of liability. But 24 of them provide written evidence, and then 6 of them are filmed. You could just go watch them.
So was he kind of a whistleblower, do you feel like? Or
he was a whistleblower back in the days where essentially Prozac wiped out, consultative counseling psychiatry overnight. He wrote the book Talking Back to Prozac. But COVID-19 and the Global Predators, it has the best timeline. Now, Robert F. Kennedy wrote a book about the real Anthony Fauci. He's got a timeline in it too. Our book, Courage to Face COVID-19, I think outlines who this complex is and what they're doing.
This medical industrial complex.
Yes.
Yeah, who is it exactly?
Yeah, but hang on. People have said, well, wait a minute, it's big pharma. I disagree. I think the pharmaceutical companies and the in vitro diagnostic companies and the gown and mask companies, they're suppliers to the complex. The complex is this organized group that in many ways they have bad intentions. And look at the last World Economic Forum meeting. They play a big role in this. There was one of the speeches where they said, COVID-19 pandemic was a test of human compliance. They just come out and say that.
Was it just written or did someone speak that?
Someone say it. Yeah, let's pull it up. World Economic Forum, the pandemic was a test of human compliance. But the point I'm making is that there's a lot of interest in this whole field. We have divisions. Here we go. Who said that?
No, the World Economic Forum did not describe the pandemic as a test of human compliance. Test of
social responsibility.
Key details from that and related WF publications include test of social responsibility. The article explicitly stated that COVID-19 was the test of social responsibility.
Citing the fact that people worldwide complied with the unimaginable restrictions. Well, pretty close.
Oh, I don't doubt that it felt certainly like a psychological experiment. I mean, one of the things I was going to ask you is, what do you feel like they learned from this? Like, what valuable information was taken away, like whoever these powers are that be, you know?
Well, I hope that they learned that when they have a vaccine that's an epic failure, that's permanently going to set back aspirations for future worldwide vaccination. Now, if this vaccine would have worked, and everyone took it, and COVID magically went away, and just everything cleared up in a month or two, and nobody was sick anymore, and there was no side effects, these guys would have been heroes, right? Remember, Bill Gates comes out in April of 2020 and says, this pandemic doesn't end until virtually every person in the world takes a vaccine. How does he know? It's April of 2020. Vaccines,
right? Who knows what's going to happen?
Right.
Yeah. So, if you have a strategy, then of course that's what you're going to say.
Well, Gates Foundation and the Bloomberg School of Public Health in 2017 hold a planning seminar. It's called the SPARS pandemic, SPARS pandemic. It's at Johns Hopkins. And it says there's going to be a coronavirus pandemic.
Yeah.
In 2017.
I remember
now,
reading that.
They held it in 2017. They thought it was going to hit in 2025. Okay, it hits in late 2019. Then, and this is one of the ones that is well documented as a planning event, and then Event 201. Come on. That's November of 2019.
What is Event 201?
Event 201 was, again, Johns Hopkins, Bloomberg School of Public Health, Gates Foundation. They have a meeting. They said, we are really going to have a coronavirus pandemic. They bring over George Gao, who's the Chinese CDC director, and he's paired up with others there. Avril Haines is there. Who's Avril Haines? She's a former World Economic Forum associate, becomes our director of national intelligence under Biden. Really? And she's with George Gao, and they're saying, oh, we're going to have a COVID pandemic, and this is how it's essentially is going to be used to railroad mass vaccination on the world.
But do you believe that everybody knew that, or do you believe that a select group knew it and then they just, because say if I have a devious plan, right? I could still go to someone and say, hey, this is what's happening. I don't have to say I'm the one who's causing what's happening, right? So because the tough part is when you start to think of like that everybody was complicit, like, you know what I'm saying? That's the part that starts to feel very impossible to a lot of people.
I don't think that's the case. I got to tell you, I was in practice then. I had no idea this was going on. Everybody I talked to in my institutions all over the whole country, all over Europe, no one knew this was happening. The point is, this was going on. This was in the open.
Got it.
No one was paying attention. I bet no one briefed Trump that in 2017 that they're going to, they were planning for a coronavirus pandemic. I bet there wasn't any briefing.
But does it also make sense that as our world evolves and as like biohacking and like research and everything becomes so much more intense and like medicine is evolving all the time and science is evolving constantly, that's just what it does, that it would make some sense to strategize that something like this could happen, like that maybe we've moved on from like actual like huge wars on land, and then it's going to become more like, I remember years ago you would hear like, oh, the next war is going to be in the water or it's going to be in the air, right? It's going to be a virus. You would hear stuff like that a lot, like just kind of randomly.
Oh, there's movies, right? There's movie Contagion and all these other movies. What experts will say in infectious disease and vaccinology is that the reason why we have to have biolabs is we have to get ahead of nature.
Right.
So nature, sooner or later, is going to throw us a really bad bug, and we're susceptible to these. And the case example they use is Spanish flu. In my book on vaccines, we spend a lot of time on the Spanish flu, which was very unique. Post-World War I, we have young men in army barracks. And remember, influenza doesn't directly kill people. What kills them is a secondary staphylococcal pneumonia. And that's what they die of. the point that was made, though, is that, listen, we could have another Spanish flu. And when COVID-19 pandemic broke, don't forget, the storyline we were told is, oh, here we go again. It's another Spanish flu. Now, remember, Anthony Fauci knows it came out of the lab, but they collaborate together to say, you know what? It came out of a fish market. In fact, the WHO, when it was asked to investigate early in 2020, where did this virus come from? Rear Admiral Brett Giroir, someone who went to my medical school in Dallas at Southwestern, he was on President Trump's first task force. Brett Giroir nominates 3 U.S. scientists to go to Wuhan. The WHO says, no, we don't want them. We want Peter Daszak. Isn't that interesting? Daszak, who knew, in fact, he was shuttling the plans over there. So Daszak goes over to Wuhan and he looks around. He goes, I don't know where this virus came from, but it definitely didn't come out of the lab. He had been to the lab dozens of times. He shuttled the plans over. Anthony Fauci was well aware of this. They started covering up their emails. Rand Paul's got a great book called Deception. He has every single one of these events in it. But the point I'm making is those in this field keep saying, listen, there could be another Spanish flu. We must get ahead of this. However, with the 2004 BioShield Act and the 2005 PrEP Act, the governments got in the game of bioterrorism.
How did those acts allow them to do that?
Well, what happened was we had the anthrax scare, which largely looks like it was a deranged government worker at Fort Detrick who was working on the anthrax vaccine for the military, and there's been lost enthusiasm for this vaccine based on safety. And so he actually sent some letters to Leahy and other people in Congress. Some people got sick. To this day, not a single soldier has died of anthrax because an enemy shot an anthrax capsule the other way. It's all been, this event.
Like these social events.
Yeah, social events.
Yeah.
So,
what happened with anthrax?
There's another great book with, there you go.
Letters containing anthrax spores were mailed to several news media offices and to Senators Tom Daschle and
Patrick Leahy.
Patrick Leahy, killing 5 people and infecting 17
others.
At a certain point, wouldn't some of these drug companies or these if there's a bigger entities out there that are there's this cabal of control, wouldn't they? Is there more money in you battling these diseases over time than there is just in one vaccine? You know what I'm saying? Like, wouldn't it then on them tabulating how much money they could make off of a person, wouldn't it be like, oh, well, it's better if we have them battling these 2 diseases or instead of getting a vaccine early? Does that make sense?
No, the question is good. If you're a drug company and you say, I've got 2 choices, I'm going to make a vaccine or I'm going to make a drug to treat the disease, you would take the vaccine every time. Because the vaccine, let's say a universal vaccine like influenza, you're going to give it to 300 million people. That's 300 million doses.
Got it.
If you get influenza and severe influenza, you'd have a drug that's maybe given to 50,000 people. It's night and day.
So then right there, that should be information to us that makes it it makes more sense then if you're like, well, let me just wait and see what 50,000 people would have these symptoms or get this, it feels like.
From a public health perspective, my view on this is that it should all be about treatment, right? I mean, so, have you ever gotten influenza test positive?
No.
Ever? You've never even gotten it or tested for it?
I don't have it.
Okay, you never have?
Never have.
Have you ever taken an influenza vaccine?
I don't know.
I can tell you, that shows you it's completely irrelevant to you. I've never had influenza, and I've never taken the test.
I've never even met anybody that's even said it before.
Right. So my point is, why is it recommended for you, me, every human being on earth, including little babies, every year?
But is the reason why we're not talking about it or anything or know anybody that has it because it?
Well, you don't take the shots.
Oh, that's right. But did I once get it when I was a child? That's what
No,
I'm
what I'm saying is it's an annual risk.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Do you see what I mean? So it's an annual risk. So the point is, the fear of infectious diseases is grossly exaggerated to promote vaccine uptake. Vaccine mythology and ideology has been going on for 300 years. This is medical religion. This is medical. Do you know some doctors will throw a patient out of their office if they don't take a vaccine?
Wow.
Yeah. Pediatricians will. They'll say, listen, if your kid doesn't take a vaccine, they're out of here.
Oh, yeah. I've seen people fighting about that online. Like, I didn't want my kids to have the vaccines, and this is how they treated us.
Can you imagine? I prescribe blood pressure medicines. If you don't take this blood pressure medicine, I'm throwing you out of my office.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, it's insane. It's a religion. And how the ideology works is like this, that there's always been historically tremendous fear of infectious diseases and that we're vulnerable. We're vulnerable. But through the brilliance of man and vaccines can improve upon God's creation. Man outdoes God with vaccines. This is very important. And because the vaccines aren't perfect, we all have to take them. And because this is such a laudable goal for humanity, if some people are injured or disabled or died of the vaccine, they should take it for the betterment of humanity. They should take it for the team. It's collateral damage, and it's acceptable in the eyes of this vaccine ideology. It is a runaway freight train. Look at the front of our book. Look at the coin on the front of the book. Look at the iconography. That's a boy.
Yeah.
This is a 22 euro coin issued by the Vatican. That's a boy in the tripartite imagery.
Oh, there's a boy getting a vaccine. This coin was issued by the Vatican?
Yeah, issued by the Vatican. But look at this. This is during the pandemic. The boy should be receiving the Eucharist. He should be receiving the body and blood of Jesus Christ.
So you're saying
but
that part
instead,
of there's
he's
a
receiving
bigger,
the vaccine.
Yes. So you're saying there's a bigger psychology here of playing God.
It's a religion. The point is, it's a religion. That's the reason why people can't talk about it. That's the reason why doctors are nuts over this. That's the reason why there are no lectures about side effects from vaccines.
There's no grand rounds.
No grand rounds. We can't talk about it. There are people listening to your show. They still can't talk to their relatives about this.
Yeah. Well, now everyone's in a spot where it's like, it feels like a lot of people know that it's bullshit, but you don't want to bring it up to people because they've probably had the vaccine and you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings.
Well, what did I do when I came here? I did a quick check. Did everybody take the vaccine? Where are we on this? Because people start to get pretty uncomfortable when we talk about this.